Okay, we'll call this agenda priorities meeting to order for September the 3rd. It's 3 p.m. Could I please ask Cindy or Councillor Messaros, to read the land acknowledgement?
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. The town of Innisfail acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3, within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to 2.1. Are there any additions or deletions?
No, Mayor.
Can I please have someone make a motion to adopt the agenda? Councillor Bates.
I'll move the agenda as presented.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And we'll move into 3.1 with CEO Becker.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. This report is considered twofold. One is in part of the 2025 budget process. Administration Operations has been working diligently over the last several months to get their items in order as they move into more robust discussions in the forthcoming months. Presenting to you, Council, today as a starting point with you to bring in Council as part of those conversations moving forward as administration continues to do behind the scenes work on the 2025 budget. Second part of the report is to reintroduce the updated strategic priorities. Again, we looked at, we, being you, Council, reviewed the priorities last week at the Council meeting. Just looking for if there's any further dialogue regarding those priorities. So just going into the reports, the report on the budget is considered higher level as the weeks and months come and go. It'll become more granular, so more detail, more thought process, likely more feedback and questions coming from Council as we move forward. Why budget objectives? Really, it's a starting point. It helps provide feedback and direction to administration, as well as the public of where you, Council, wish to go for 2025. It allows for administration to build out financial plans that supports our overarching objectives and priorities. Within this report, you'll notice that I included the 2023 budget objectives as well as the 2024 budget objectives. 2024 budget objectives were pulled from the midterm priority setting exercise that was held off location with information as outlined in the reports. 2025 budget, so initial start to say administration will consider 2024 budget objectives until we hear differently from you, Council, as we move forward in this process. A couple of questions, Council, to keep in mind, and again, if you wish to move into answering these questions, great. If not, I know there'll be more questions and answers forthcoming, but as a starting point, pose a couple of questions to you is, does Council wish to focus specifically on any of the strategic priorities identified within the midterm priorities? Are there priorities that are considered a higher priority, or are there priorities missing from the information that you've gathered? Does Council identify any of the town services that should be increased? So even besides priorities and projects, are there service levels that you wish to increase? Are there service levels that should be considered decreased? So those are questions to keep in mind as moving forward over the next little while. At the same time, administration is currently discussing service levels as a primary focus as we're starting to work on the projects as well. Coming to you in the next couple of weeks. But what we're trying to do currently is just look at how do we maintain service levels, what resources do we require with the changing economics, as well as to mitigate potential public and organizational risks. So I'll just stop there, Mayor Barclay and Council, if there's any questions, but again, really light today, but consider it a starting point in the budgetary conversations.
Okay, thank you. And are we going through the strategic priorities again, or
yeah, definitely,
not
Mayor
necessarily?
Barclay. I just thought I'd stop
Sure,
there,
yep,
but
okay.
if you want to tie in the priorities, certainly, please.
Sure. Does anybody have any questions for CEO Becker? I have like questions, I think, as we get deeper into this today and
Okay.
bring some things up. Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, Your Worship, I was thinking of once we get deeper into the report to make some comments, but thank you.
Okay, just to conclude on the budget side is, again, just a starting point for you, council, just to start thinking over the next, oh, there's a question from Councillor Wing. Councillor Bates.
This may be preliminary because I just looked at the screen that's up here, so go ahead and finish where you're at.
Okay. What was I saying? No, just again, starting point for council, and more questions will likely to occur forthcoming weeks and months. More detail to come to you as we can move into more detail of the budget. So if you don't mind, I'll move into strat priorities. Again, council did take a look at these priorities last week at your council meeting. Administration has proposed their respective areas. There's some room for council to consider more higher priorities from your perspective, which most often are applied or put over to the CAO, but does tie into SLT as well. So I'll just stop there, council. If there's any questions regarding the priorities, or if there's any changes you wish to make, or any additions.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bates?
So yeah, I just wanted to point out, I believe in the first priority here, just the way it's written, I don't believe the Water Commission has fully completed developing its drought management plan. It kind of got onto a pause situation going into the summer, and then they had 2 periods of no meetings. And so I don't believe their plan is complete. I'm still fully supportive that we go ahead, because there seems to be disconnects at various levels with the provincial government not taking the lead and actually providing better guidance. So I think it's still appropriate for us to go ahead, but I don't think that plan is complete at the Water Commission level. And then my own personal input, both to them and to us, is whatever we end up with, especially now that it's been going all summer and back again, I don't want to see us with a more regulatory steps than what City of Calgary has. That's just my personal opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have a few. So I think like service levels, or whether that includes programs that are delivered by the town, it's hard to say what to increase or decrease when you really don't maybe have data to go on to make that decision. At this point anyway, I'm sure we'll have more as we move forward into budget and stuff, but so I will, I think, leave that more so in the hands of administration to determine, because like I said, we don't necessarily have that granular information to make those kind of decisions. I know the urban hen bylaw is up here someplace, and I just wanted to make a note that I think that would be scratched off now, because we dealt with that last week. The election bylaw. So I'm wondering if we're going to have an estimate on the costs of running a municipal election in 2025 with the new rules that are around that, with hand counting ballots, with having to make I think a citizen registry for the election. That's going to be fairly costly, I would imagine.
Yes, Mayor Barclay, I've done some very brief, high-level estimates. We are looking about $50,000, which is upwards from the 30 or 35 that we would have normally budgeted for this year. But I don't have that standard. I will bring a little bit more detailed estimate to you guys when we do have those numbers in detail.
Thank you. And then I guess on the water conservation, I hear what Councillor Bates said, that that's not really completed by the Water Commission, but I wouldn't mind seeing that word drought removed. We talked before about having a water conservation policy bylaw that I think we've already have in place, and we've added to that this year with some incentives, but I think that town of Innisfail, we should continue on the path that we've been down for many years on water conservation and making sure that that stays in place. Update on housing, I think Napoleon Meadows, I think, is pretty much done, right, Director Jenkins? So that can maybe come out and add in what's potentially coming next. And I think we've done there's been a lot of success on housing, thanks to administration. And I think that the MDP, we haven't really seen that at council yet either, so taking a look at that will be helpful. The reserve policy, just wanted to make a suggestion as that continues to be developed. Are we going to determine what, with our more higher end capital projects, how much of that would be in cash, so using reserves, compared to how much may be borrowed? So if we were to build a new aquatic center, is it going to be a 50-50? Would it be a 25-75? Or even going forward 30 years down the road when none of us are sitting here, or at least I won't be. But, what does that look like? Because that makes a huge difference into what you're putting into reserves. And if we're thinking, well, we're going to pay cash for everything, well, the minute we build a new aquatic center, we probably need to be putting $1 million away every year to build the next aquatic center. So how does that break down with borrowing? And
So Mayor Barclay, with reference to the reserves policy, we are in the middle right now of doing the work to balance our 10-year capital plan and provide us with those optimal balances that we need to strive for each year to save. However, there are a few others, like the facility replacement is essentially for when we need that second fire hall, another building. We have to do a full analyzation of that over the next 50 years and show you how much we need to save each year to save up for those. So we will be bringing that to you, hopefully with other budgetary numbers as well. So,
but would you be, I guess, implementing into that strategy like a potential borrowing, so that you know what the debt load is going forward in the next?
So Mayor Barclay, the 10-year capital plan does outline where the funding source is to come from. So whether we intend to pull from reserves or to pull a debenture, or even if it's coming from some kind of grant. So we do have that set up. Director Kennedy did that set up for the next 10 years. So.
But beyond that?
So we don't have that detail, I think, over the next,
Guess that's what
past
I'm
the 10
asking.
years.
Like, because I think now we're looking at a new aquatic center, and maybe 40 years ago, that wasn't necessarily looked at.
Yeah.
And here we are kind of struggling to fund it, right? So just a comment. And then, yeah, I think that's all for now. That was a lot.
So if there's no further questions, council, on this report, just ask to receive it as information. We'll come back with those slight changes in the priorities to be approved next week. Again, they're fluid. They change based on circumstance. I'll come back to you formally the next quarter.
So, see, Bark, like, could we add a priority at this point in time, or is that going to be a discussion, like, going forward, like, say, a potential capital priority, or will you bring back, you want administration to bring that back, or are we going to have a discussion at some point in time about?
Well, council, if you see the higher focus priorities, if there's something in mind, now and later is appropriate. So anytime, really.
Okay.
Let's make this a priority.
All right.
For capital projects, you're going to see more capital in the next few weeks, but
Okay.
also the budget's coming to you in a few months. But really, it's council's dialogue, what we can help you based on the information you
Okay.
talk to each other
Well, I'll
about.
just throw this out there. Thinking about outdoor washrooms, building or something down at the Diamonds playground area down by the arena, something other than porta potties going forward at some, if there'd be a building down there that people could change skates in and have washrooms and something a little bit nicer than, if it's possible. I know it's a huge expense, but.
Yeah, I think Mayor Barclay, to those types of projects, again, now is great. And even moving forward, we're going to be coming to you in a couple of weeks, more specifically to some of those outstanding capital projects. And council can have maybe a more robust conversation and share that. There may be other ideas, but it's never the timing is always good right now, is to start sharing and having dialogue amongst council. What are those priorities? And then I'll formulate something in due time. But collectively as council, provide that direction when it's appropriate, but to plant the ideas. The plan is, as we discussed this morning, to come back to council in a couple of weeks with that list of projected funded and unfunded list of projects that council's talked about over the last couple of years.
Can I just ask one
Councillor
question?
Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barclay, and through to CEO Becker. As I've been reviewing the strategic planning document, trying to remember a year ago, under the big rocks, we don't actually specify economic development, and I wouldn't want to lose anything that we had identified as priorities a year ago relative to those big rocks and the projects that fall out of it. But I would really like to be sure that we don't lose the momentum that we've been gaining over the last 3 years. And so I don't know why we don't have economic development on there, but I would like to, I just don't want it to get lost.
I'll start into this, and Mayor Barclay, to Councillor Wing, I might ask the director to chime in too, but right now, there's been conversation about updating if we have a Power Place economic development strategy, which is a lot of ticks in the boxes there. Administratively, we want to make sure, if we know what council's primary objective is, to really build on that foundation of economic development under the pillars of social, environment, and economics. The idea is to making sure we have a strong work plan that aligns up, through the eyes of the committee, approved by council, but also making sure the plan is still relevant. And I'll maybe see if the director has any further comments on this, but I don't believe we've lost any of that. I think the focus still remains internally to deliver strongly on the economic development piece.
Yeah, I think when the strategic priority session happened, that getting an economic development officer was kind of right off the top. So we're now in the position where we have said economic development officer, and yeah, within our areas, focusing on getting that industrial land marketed and moved, and then continuing to work through the Power Place and kind of regrouping on that energy hub, what that's going to be. We went through the EFL process and have generated a lot of community knowledge and momentum, but what does that look like as a sustainable sort of long-term part of our operations?
Councillor Heistad?
Thanks, Your Worship. To CEO Becker and the rest of council, I think we've done a really good job trying to, stay in the line and looking after our goals itself. I know on recreation, when we start talking about that, that may vary per councillor, and that's where we go. It may be buildings, it may be opportunities with other communities, but I know that that's an area that there's going to be a lot going on, especially with aquatic center and what the future may look like with that. So those are all my comments for now, and thanks for this.
Okay, I'll just have somebody then please make the recommended motions. There's two.
I'll make the
Councillor
first
Wing?
one, Mayor Barclay. I move that council approves the 2024 strategic priorities, August 26, 2024, at the September 9th, 2024 regular council meeting.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Messaros, did you have a comment?
No, I'm getting in line.
Okay, all right. All in favor of the motion? Okay, carried. And I'll ask Councillor Messaros for the next motion.
I'd like to move that council accepts the 2025 budget objectives report as information.
All right, thanks. Any further comments? All in favor? All right, carried, thanks. Okay, and we'll move on to 3.2 Alberta Municipalities Convention Resolutions with CEO Becker.
It's really here, council, for your information. I did not plan on dissecting each of the resolutions. If you wish, you can comb through just to create identity to them as you move into the voting on these resolutions in the next 3 weeks or so.
Does anybody have any questions about any of them, or should we highlight ours? Councillor Bates.
Well, I just have the generic question, should we go through them? Because we seem to get that advice from Alberta Munis to kind of have council review them.
Well, I think we can review them on our own time.
Well, I guess we can, but it more like, what I kind of got out of that advice was that we should have kind of a somewhat a consolidated opinion as we go. Obviously, anybody can vote, but just a generic question. I certainly don't feel the need to do it today, but
Yeah, I think we can review them on our own time. Maybe if something comes up, we can bring it up at a future meeting, and if there's something specific you want to address and ask about, but
no, I skimmed through them. I don't have any specific,
Okay.
nothing.
I do have just one little question to Mayor Barclay. On the resolution that we submitted with the City of Red Deer, I just had a question about where it is therefore resolved that Alberta municipalities advocate to the Government of Alberta to fund Alberta municipalities or a third-party organization. What would be that third-party organization, for example?
I think it could be Alberta Parks and Recreation, yeah, something like that, yeah. Okay, if there's nothing further, I please have someone make the recommended motion. Councillor Heistad.
Yes, Your Worship, I'll recommend that we, council accept the 2024 Alberta Municipalities Convention Resolution Report as information.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And we'll now move on to 3.3 with Director Vickers and the second quarter financials.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. So this is to provide the second quarter financial information to council. So each year we do present quarterly financials for council to review and approve. And this is for the second quarter. It is inclusive, so it is starting from January 1st all the way to June 30th, 2024. The 2024 final budget was approved on December 11th, 2023, and administration does believe that this is a true representation of the state of our financials as of June 30th, 2024. So when we look at the financials, we'll look at revenue first. So we do see an overall revenue of 71%, and we do always compare this to that quarterly benchmark. So for the second quarter, we are going to be comparing everything to that 50% benchmark. So we are sitting quite good. We are definitely well above that 50% benchmark this quarter. Business licenses is sitting at 100%, so this is right where we wanted to be. We do collect the majority of these at the beginning of the year. Same with animal licenses. We are a little bit lower than what we want, but we are sitting at 81%. Tax revenue is sitting at 101%, so we do recognize the entirety of our tax revenue in the second quarter. Our outstanding balance as of June 30th was $797,000, or about that 6.34%. And as of today, or this report was written last week, we were sitting at $396,000, or 3.15%. And then I did identify a list of the last quite a few years there, just to show we're still in that same kind of ballpark for our tax outstanding. So the sale of lands is currently only sitting at 41%. We've already closed on the one lot in the industrial area. We've closed on 4 residential lots, and we've received deposits for 2 of the fully built homes. Even though most of these homes are already sold, we just don't have the money yet. Revenue from our own sources is sitting at 140%. This does hold our auction revenue, so we don't budget for that auction amount every year. We just send our stuff to auction, and whatever money that we bring back in, that does go back into that reserve. Other revenue is sitting at 217%. The primary item that goes into this account is accounts receivable penalties, and we just wanted to make note that just over $39,000 is in relation to a single invoice. Donations is quite high, 25.62%. It is comprised of 3 major donations. So we've received a donation from AHS for $19,125, a $10,000 donation from the Rotary Club for the outdoor rink, and a $22,000 donation from the Innisfil Fire and Rescue Society for firefighting supplies. So now we'll go to the expenses. So again, we do compare ourselves to that 50th percentile benchmark. We are sitting at 39% currently, so we're sitting kind of in a pretty good position. So some of the expenses to note, the first one we look at every quarterly is salaries. We want to make sure that we're sitting in that benchmark 25, 50, 75 for salary. So we are sitting at 47%, so we are quite happy with where we're sitting at for the end of June. This is halfway through all our summer students, so we kind of have a good representation of the full 50% of the year. Supplies at tax notices is sitting at 92%. We are fully capped for this. There should be no more expenses going into this account. So this is all costs related to tax notices. This year that did include the cost for that sign that was on the street, Main Street there. But this is the paper. We do have to order special paper for tax notices. Computer programming is over that 50th percent. It is sitting at 76%. However, a lot of the costs are paid up front in this account, like our costs for our accounting software and things like that. Insurance is at 110%. We do pay insurance at the beginning of the year, and we do see some additions throughout the year based on equipment that we do purchase. So we did see an increase in $13,000 in 2024, so we did see an increase of 6%. Land purchase is sitting at 270%, so these are the realtor and lawyer legal costs for the land sales, so they do just go hand in hand. As we see that revenue go up, we will see this expense go up as well. Grants to others is at 63. Again, the big chunk of that is that library requisition, which is paid at the beginning of the year. All revenue and expenses are within the budgeted approvals for this quarter. So we do have the councillor expenses here. So 2024 is the first year that we are tracking councillors' expenses, so they are listed there. These do only go to June 30th, and a lot of these expenses traditionally are put on someone's credit card, so sometimes we do see a little bit of lag in when those expenses come in. Attached to the report, along with some of the income statements, is also the reserves report. There has been no changes since last week, since council approved the reserves policy, so that is attached. And we would like to go through the capital projects one by one so that we can give you individualized updates on each of the capital projects.
I guess I'm still on. I've been hogging the microphone. Okay, so first off the list, so town office fire system. So this was looking at installing an interconnected fire system in the town office as well as extending into the senior center. Currently, when we've gone out for quotes, the project has been significantly over the budgeted amount. So we are going to have to look at some considerations on the scope of the project and or coming back to council this fall to look at an adjustment to that budget. The next one is generator preparation for the town hall. So this was looking at the ability to have the town office operating during, if there was a prolonged power outage, for emergency management purposes. As we've worked with the electrician and looked at what the requirements would be, we're still trying to develop a scope and whether there may be some better options that are more cost effective for what we would need to be able to achieve in that type of a situation. Town office windows, so this is in process. We still haven't secured the contractor yet, but in the process of working through the quotes, hoping to still have that project completed within 2024. Town office committee room renovations, that project is essentially complete. We are still just waiting on the furniture for the two newly created offices, so there will be some additional expenses coming in for that. And then the alarm system upgrade project, that project is complete. Moving into, I guess, it's under protective services, so the fire hall, roof replacement and repairs. So this project is also complete. It's substantially under budget as some of the originally identified repairs within the building condition assessment were not as extensive as what was considered in that report. Fire hall sanitary venting, this is kind of an ongoing plumbing challenge that we have over at the fire hall. So this project isn't complete and we're continuing to work with the plumbers to get that rectified. The project for the CPO radios is complete, as well as their new
combi tool or their jaws of life kind of tool. So those are both complete.
So in regards to these capital ones, the Eastgate Lift Station is complete now. It did run over budget a little bit. That was we ran into the underground storage tank that needed to be replaced, so removed. So that did run over a little bit on budget. Southwest Industrial Design and Construction is ultimately complete. We do have some final billing, but the work there is done. Southwest Industrial Solar Farm, the design, that's just underway with the AUC process. 2023 surface improvements is now complete. We did have some carryover just for some deficiencies, but that's completed. Same with 46th Ave and 40th Street closed. Those are all complete now. Highway 54 pedestrian crossing, that was just really the design for the permit to get it done. That has now been into the 2024 surface improvements, which is underway. Operations yard electrical upgrades.
That project is in place, or in progress, so essentially working to replace some of the yard lights, the panels, as well as where the employee vehicles are able to plug in the wintertime. So that, we've been working with the electrician and the concrete contractor.
Sanitary force main, the design work is complete for that. It is ready for tender. As part of the design, we did find that we actually have to go in and replace a water main now because of the alignment and the crossing at CP Crossing, and did change the design scope a bit. So what we've decided is to hold this until next year with an increase of the budget identified in the 2025 capital. So we'll look at tendering that in the spring, or early spring. So that's project will be carried over. 2024 service improvements, pretty much complete, other than the highway crossing now. So that final billing will come in the next couple of months. The radiant heater.
Yeah, the radiant heater at Res 2, we're actually doing Res 2 and Res 3 are in progress. So those should show up in the next quarter.
Skid steer is purchased. The new pickup trucks are purchased and received. The water truck, that was going to be a second-hand unit that we had planned to purchase this year. Unfortunately, with the industry the way it is, we were not able to find one for that $100,000. So we'll be looking to bring that back in 2025 with an increased budget for what we can find to replace that. The side-by-side was purchased, as well as the snow blade attachment. Diamond 7 upgrades are now completed. And the 2 playgrounds from last year, we carried those over as we did do the trail connections to both of those playgrounds this year. So those are now done as well.
Okay, so those last 3 projects on the list there, park shop, water heater, radiant heater, and makeup air unit, those will all be completed in this fall, are just awaiting install with the contractor. On to the next page, so the energy conservation measures, so this goes back to 2022, includes the solar panel installs on various buildings. That project is now closed or completed. Building condition assessments, that project is also completed. We've been able to have building condition assessments done on all of our current buildings. When we initially started the project, we didn't think we would be able to get all of the buildings done within that budget amount, so we are sitting in a better position in terms of knowing where we're at with our various assets. The senior center air conditioning, that is complete. The curling rink mechanical slab repair, we have been able to do some drainage repairs at the curling rink that we think may rectify this problem, so this one will carry over to see if we've essentially avoided the problem, or if we need to come in and do some work next year. The new floor cleaning machines are here and in use. The construction of the 4 units in Napoleon Meadows, which we've now actually increased to the 5 units, the 5th unit isn't under construction yet, 3 of the 5 are sold at this time. The Southwest Residential Development Design will be looking to come to council as early as Monday for the contract award for the engineering component of the Southwest. The arena sound system, they're currently working right now, should be ready for ice. The 13th, I think, is the first ice bookings, as well as the arena flooring and partitions. They're currently putting it in as we speak. The pool schematic and detail, that's essentially the IPD process. So there shouldn't be more expenses in that project as we currently sit. The Aquatic Center repairs and maintenance project from 2023, that included the external doors, the sliding doors, so that's completed. Air conditioning for the multipurpose room and some work on the exhaust fans, so that has all been completed. The roof replacement was the large portion of that project, which has not been completed. As we went through that, again, sort of the determination of what the future of that building would be was suggested. So that project will remain open, and as we work through the next month or two, I'm sure we'll have far more information relevant to where we're going with the Aquatic Center. Then the library roof repairs, we're just waiting for some final work to be done there. And then the LLC hot water tank will be replaced along with some of the other hot water and makeup air units later this fall.
Okay. So I'll take any questions that anyone may have over the report.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Question, bank service charges seem to be a little off the 50% mark. Not that it's a huge item, but halfway through the year and we're already...
I'll look into that, Mayor Barclay.
Okay. All right. And then, can you just explain the library to Director Vickers? I think it's sitting at 70%, so you said that's paid up front, or?
Yes, so that's, Mayor Barclay, so under grants to others,
Yep.
the primary one is the grant to the library, and we give them that in one lump sum check, so we don't pay them out over the monthly payments or anything, right?
Then, question for Director Kennedy. So on the sanitary force main that you were going to do, and now there's a water line, you said, that needs replacing as well? Yep. Like, yep. Is that a large?
Yeah, it will be a large item. So estimated is another additional 750,000. It is a ductile iron line, so it's on the list to be replaced. It just wasn't to be replaced yet.
Okay.
So we're gonna just take advantage of being in there doing the force main. It comes down to alignments and being restricted with that. So we are looking to bump that and then doing a little bit of shuffle on our other priorities, which will come forward to you and show you how we've made some adjustments.
So can you explain to us, or to me anyway, I mean, we know what's going on in Calgary with the water break, and I know that your team is always on top of trying to determine what's next to fix. So how much inspection of a line can you do without digging?
It is very limited on water lines. Knowing that our lines, we have quite a bit of inventory that's got ductile iron, as well as AC, asbestos cement lines. Those are our biggest priority lines that we look at when we look at capital. And then we go down into breaks. Like, that's really how we determine what's priority. We try and mix them with surface and underground. That's how we try and match them. But sometimes, a good example is 40th Street. Here just recently, we hit another break on the weekend on that line. So now that obviously bumps that into priority 1, which we'll be looking to come forward to council and seeing how we can fit that into the list. And then how that priority then now adjusts all the other ones that we had shown. They're all the same lifespan. Ductile iron got put in, on that big lump when everybody started putting water mains in the ground, so it's hard to say which one is gonna break first. It does come down to just pitting and soils. The testing is pretty limited on how you can determine. A good example is actually the break that we just had. Both of those breaks have been underneath the pipe. It's been a pinhole deterioration on the ductile iron, so they're not really even evident. You have to literally reach underneath the pipe to find the break. So they're really hard to detect where they are. All we can do is go in by life, by year, and do the best we can to pick the areas.
Yeah, okay, thanks. And how old would that pipe be? Like on 40th, for, as an example?
It's getting in the 40 to 50 year range.
So 70s?
Yep.
70, yeah. Well, 80s, I guess now.
Which we have a lot of.
Yeah, yeah,
in
for
town.
sure.
So, yeah.
Okay, no, thanks for that. Appreciate it. Anybody else have any questions? If not, I'll have somebody please make the recommended motion that we accept the second quarter financials. Councillor Messaros.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I'll move that council accepts the second quarter financials as presented.
All right, thank you. All in favor? All right, carried, thank you. And we'll move into correspondence and information. Just want to bring up number 3, the Rail Safety Week. I see there's a link for a toolbox in there, so I'm curious if administration or council would like us, to do some education around rail safety. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to look into the toolbox at all and what that entails, but.
Mayor Barclay, I've not talked to enforcement about this. Certainly we can create some awareness perhaps. We've, a few years ago, as you recall, we did do some public awareness, quite beneficial in partnership with CP at the time. We do have a relationship with them, so certainly we'll pass that forward on any initiatives they can do to promote rail safety.
Yeah, great, even like collaboration with the schools and with CP, with Constable Nelson and stuff. I think it'd be, if we can, that'd be great. So I'll just have someone please make a motion that we accept correspondence as information. Councillor Heistad.
I'll make that motion to accept the correspondence for information.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And then we'll just do some roundtable. If anybody has anything, we'll begin with Councillor Wing today.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay, and I don't have anything to report or discuss today. Thanks.
Councillor Bates.
So I did participate in the enhanced engagement last week. I also attended Mountain View Water's, I'll call it a municipal social last week, and the Field and Forge tour. All of those were great. And I have MPC this week.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Heistad, or Messaros, I guess, it seems to bounce over you. Come back to you.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I also attended the Enhanced Energy Roadshow and the tour of Field and Forge Brewery, and yeah, they were excellent events.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Heistad.
Thanks, Your Worship. I attended the Enhanced Roadshow, Field and Forge tour, as well as this week I have the village meeting September 4th. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll do a report next week, but I did attend the Enhanced Roadshow. I think it's always interesting to listen to that company. They're just fantastic, and their education that they do around carbon capture and storage is pretty cool. And went to Field and Forge and have had some really nice feedback on Deep Sky and everything that's going on there through emails and community engagement. And I'm not sure if anybody wants to go to Edmonton next week, Varma, on I think it's September the 11th in the evening, it begins at 6. Please let me know, or let Juanita know. That would be fantastic. And I think that's it. So we'll go into upcoming events. Okay, and we'll just have somebody please make a motion for upcoming events. Councillor Wing.
Mayor Barclay, I would move that we accept the upcoming events.
Perfect, thank you. All in favor? Okay, and I think that's it for today, so we will adjourn at 3:44. Let's say 3:45. Okay, thanks, everybody.